Welcome to ASL Developing School, your pathway to certified life coaching, where coaching education meets personal and professional transformation. Pro Life Coach Certification Program, 60 plus hours, from foundation to mastery, built on ICA standards. Welcome to today's lecture, where we'll dive into the important topic, 10 levels of human consciousness and subconsciousness. Topic objective: to provide a detailed framework describing 10 fundamental levels of human consciousness and subconsciousness, highlighting their characteristics, underlying beliefs, and practical implications. This model serves as a tool for deep self-reflection and understanding interpersonal dynamics in various life contexts to show how patterns of thinking, perception, and decision-making shift depending on a person's level of consciousness, to provide a clear framework for identifying internal blocks, conflicts, choice dynamics, and behavioral reactions, to establish a foundation for accurately diagnosing a person's state, especially in complex or high-pressure life situations. 1. Psychological helplessness. Core belief: I have no control over what happens to me. External circumstances or other people dictate my life. Description: at this stage, the individual experiences a complete absence of internal agency. There is a tendency to externalize responsibility and blame external factors for difficulties. This mindset is accompanied by passivity, low motivation, and a sense of powerlessness. Subconscious patterns reinforce feelings of helplessness and injustice. Example: a person consistently complains about their boss, life, or environment, and feels powerless to change their situation, passively waiting for circumstances to improve on their own. 2. Conflict level: active resistance. Core belief: the world is hostile, I must fight or defend myself. Description: the individual exists in a state of inner tension, perceiving external pressures as threats and responding with aggression or defensiveness. Thinking tends to be polarized and black and white, intensifying conflicts with others. This level involves anger, fear, and rejection of reality as it is. Example: someone frequently engages in arguments, perceives criticism as personal attacks, and fiercely defends their position without openness to other perspectives. 3. Control and over-responsibility level core belief: everything must be under my control. Otherwise, disaster will ensue. Description: this stage is characterized by an excessive need to manage all aspects of life to avoid uncertainty and failure. It often results in anxiety, exhaustion, and dissatisfaction. Perfectionism and fear of losing power dominate this mindset. Example: a person meticulously plans every detail, distrusts others to handle tasks, and becomes overwhelmed by self-imposed responsibilities. 4. Compassion and intersubjectivity level core belief: I am not alone, others have their own experiences and values. Description: the individual begins to develop empathy, moving away from egocentric perspectives toward understanding others. This level fosters mature interpersonal relationships, collaboration, and the ability to listen without judgment. Example: a person actively listens to others' viewpoints, seeks to understand different experiences, and is willing to find common ground. 5. Acceptance and inner reconciliation level core belief: I accept life and myself as they are. Description: this level marks the onset of genuine inner freedom. The individual recognizes the limits of their influence without self-condemnation and ceases resisting uncontrollable circumstances, thereby creating space for authentic choice and reflection. Example: a person acknowledges that the past and others cannot be changed and focuses energy on what lies within their sphere of influence. 6. Integration level. Core belief: I am whole and all parts of me belong together. Description: at this stage, the person embraces both strengths and vulnerabilities, including shadow aspects and past experiences, without denial. They make complex decisions with authenticity and integrity. Example: an individual openly acknowledges fears and past mistakes, using this awareness as a foundation for growth and authenticity. 7. Service. Humanistic self-realization. Level core. Belief: my experience and knowledge serve others. Description: actions at this level are driven not by ego, but by an inner calling to support and contribute. It involves responsible leadership, community building, and empowering others without self-sacrifice. Example: a person initiates social or professional projects to help others, offering guidance and support without expecting immediate personal gain. 8. Intentional creation level. Core belief: I consciously create my life with purpose. Description: the individual recognizes themselves as the originator of their initiatives and outcomes. Creation flows from deep clarity and intention rather than external validation or struggle. Example: someone launches a business or project driven by a clear vision and intention, maintaining focus despite distractions. 10. Pure presence level. Core belief: I simply am. My presence is enough. Description: this state transcends functional descriptions or achievements. It is characterized by open, non-resistant awareness without judgment or fear. Action arises naturally, without striving or goal orientation. This level is beyond conceptual understanding. Example: an individual embodies calm and confidence in all situations, responding with equanimity and authentic presence, regardless of external stressors. Now let's examine in detail consciousness and subconsciousness in coaching, the dynamics of inner levels. Consciousness is not a fixed point, not a volume of knowledge, nor an accumulation of experience. It is a mode of perception, reaction, and vitality. In the practical work of a coach, the most dangerous mistake is assessing a client solely by their words. A person may articulate high values, yet act from a basal level of fear. Thus, a coach must learn not to identify a client's level of internal organization by language alone, but by the depth of their presence, style of conflict resolution, and the nature of the questions they pose. The subconscious is not the lower part of the psyche. It is the field of automated responses formed in reaction to pain, disappointment, or lack of experience. It is neither evil nor incorrect. Rather, it does not distinguish between 2005 and 2025. If someone once experienced a rejection in the situation of public humiliation, they may perceive any audience as a threat for the rest of their life. And no logical argument will shift that perception until the reaction is filtered through a new experience. Transitions between levels. What happens internally? A person doesn't ascend upward simply because they completed a course or read books. Transitions occur through confrontation with one's own boundary truths. For example, someone who has lived for years at the control level may suddenly feel powerless when their child becomes ill. In that moment, they don't drop down. They encounter what has always been close: the fear of loss, the fear of helplessness. That encounter opens a new aperture, not in knowledge, but in experience. If the individual stays present with that pain, instead of fleeing into blame or action, they break free from automatic reaction. That is the moment of true growth. A client who comes to a session saying, "I never have enough time, I feel guilty all the time, no one appreciates me," is often not talking about time management or efficiency. If you listen carefully, it's a cry from the inner victim level. Yet that woman might simultaneously be a CEO, mother of 3, and public speaker. She is not weak, she is organized. But within her lives, a little girl who internalized that love must be earned through labor, devotion, and self-sacrifice. If a coach starts working on time management strategies, they lose. But if the coach allows space for the question, "Where in your body does this fatigue live?" then real work begins. Manifestation of levels in the client's language. Subconscious. Victim level typically emerges in questions like, "Why does this keep happening to me? What have I done to deserve this treatment? When will someone notice that I'm trying?" The coach here does not offer advice. They are not playing God. They do not simply mirror logic. They hold presence until the client sees for themselves that they are trying to negotiate with the world they perceive as hostile. At the control level, language shifts. "I do everything right, yet I see no results. I'm afraid to give up control. I can't allow myself to make a mistake." These statements are not about ambition. They are about fear, a deep-seated terror that, if they are not perfect, they will be abandoned. Here, the coach does not applaud productivity. Instead, they ask, "What will happen to you if you pause for 2 days?" And the client may well weep, because for the first time, they hear a question not about action, but about the permission to simply be. On the integration level, questions change tone. Why am I acting against my own values? Why does part of me want to let go, while another part clings on until the end? This reflects an internal dialogue. The person is no longer seeking blame, they are seeking truth. And truth is always multidimensional. At this level, the coach must be able to hold space without demanding certainty. Real growth is not upward, but inward. There are no good or bad levels. There is alignment between state and context. At the moment of losing a loved one, even a highly conscious individual may move through a level of helplessness, not because they regressed, but because that is part of the human journey. But they do not get stuck there. They perceive the pain, process it, and move forward. Not by avoiding it, not by bypassing it, but by embracing it. This is what a coach must learn, not to rescue, but to hold space in which the client can access their own depth without pressure to make it pretty. Coaches work: what to see, what to hold, what not to touch. Professional coaching begins where techniques end. This is no longer an instrumental approach. It is presence work. You observe that the client talks about wanting to launch a project, but their tone sounds like they're asking for permission. That indicates the body hasn't allowed itself to act yet. You don't give advice. Instead, you ask, "Who has to give you permission?" And suddenly, an entire layer unfolds: lack of internal autonomy, early experiences of punishment for initiative, fear of embarrassment. Only then can you speak about concrete action. Conclusion: depth in coaching is not a collection of grand words. It is the capacity to see from which layer of the self-action arises. Is it a reaction born of fear or an expression of integrity? The coach should not guide the client upward, Rather, create conditions where the client stops fleeing from themselves and begins to see their own truth. Because each level already exists within the person. The task is not to become better, but to become whole. These levels of consciousness provide a multidimensional framework for understanding the complex internal dynamics of human experience. They do not represent a rigid hierarchy, but rather coordinates for deep self-reflection and personal growth. Individuals may move fluidly between levels depending on context and inner work. Recognizing these patterns enhances self-awareness, improves relationships, and supports mature decision-making. Thank you for participating in this lecture. At ASL Developing School, we believe that coaching is not just a profession. It is a journey of personal and professional transformation. Continue your development with clarity, intention, and confidence in the direction you're heading.